dialogues of specialists going from one country to another. They don't need a dialogue. They know each other. And they keep on saying, we have common values. That's all fine. I have one main question, which is critical for all of us when we work within academia. You know, I'm advocating something which is, I don't want the academics and scholars to be in an ivory tower far from the people. For me, you have to connect cities and universities. You have to connect this world. But we need to do exactly the same with specialists in interfaith dialogue. So how do we reach out to the people around us, the ordinary Americans, not only among us to talk, but we have to reach out. If we want to build this new way, if you want to build on common values, this is what the channels of communication between these councils and the ordinary Americans, for example, because there is a great deal of ignorance and misunderstanding. One of the channels could be the substance of our discussion, and I would say yes. Ethics and applied ethics is a very important one. The next book that it's going to be published in 3 months. It's The Quest for Meaning, Developing a Philosophy of Pluralism. It's exactly about this. It's how do we come to principles and ethics and vision and objectives, and we are coming from different philosophy of pluralism. How do we deal with this? But my main concern with interfaith dialogue is it's as if we are dealing with a closed world of people of goodwill, not succeeding in translating this will and this vision with their society. So we need to find channels of communication.
Thank you.
Okay, I would say that we are not at the end, but we are coming close to the end. And I think that probably nobody else add themselves to the line, and if we have short questions and short answers, we should be able to do it.
Hi, my name is Bob Pringle, and for Mr. Ramadan. Going back to the question of achieving a radical reform and how you do this in the context of societies, you mentioned Morocco as a case where there's been progress, and in that case, government has been involved. Looking more broadly at communities, Muslim majority communities, whether they're communities or countries, I just wondered if you could mention a couple of other cases which you think stand out as places where there has been progress down the road that you are advocating.
Oh, many at different levels. I would say that the Turkish case is quite interesting. I'm very impressed by not only the political take of the government, because I think it's quite interesting, but some scholars that I met and some people that I met in Turkey are doing a good job in thinking about the relationship with the European Union, with the concept of secularism and the way we deal with it. I think it's quite important. In Indonesia, there are also things that are quite interesting, and the way they deal with the society on women, for example, as well. It's quite interesting. I would say that the economic experience of Malaysia, for example, with all the criticisms that we have from within, people challenging this as not being really a model for the future, is also something which is important. So depending on the model, and depending on the topic, you can find different places where things are moving. And on women, for example, in Saudi Arabia, this is something which is not known because we think it's a closed society. Be very, very suspicious on any discourse portraying a society as if it's a closed world, nothing is happening. Many things are happening in Saudi Arabia, and we are going to be a bit surprised when this is going to be the reality of tomorrow. So there are movements and things moving in different places.
Thank you.
My name is Rahel Fischbach. I'm a PhD student here at Georgetown University. And concerning your methodology, could you clarify the relationship between context and text again? You state that the sources are infallible, and you're talking about the Quran and the Sunnah, and you're not going to touch them. At the same time, you stress very much the maqasid, the principles of the law. So who defines the maqasid? what are the maqasid in your view? And then if the maqasid go against certain traditions, can we just dismiss them? And would that not mean that we question really the core elements of fiqh? And since you really put so much emphasis on fiqh, I'm just wondering if you could just
I thought and I hope that I was saying exactly the opposite. I said that I work on the field of fiqh for years, and I was coming to usul al-fiqh now. And be careful what I said about the sources. Of course, for me, it's the very word of God, but there are, level of interpretations. There are things that are immutable, and, about the creed and about the way the 5 pillars of Islam, but it's open to interpretations for the great majority of the book and the texts. So I'm not coming with something which is sacred and closed. I'm saying that there is an ongoing interpretation, an interpretative take on the scriptural sources. Now, about the maqasid, if you come back to the book, you will see, I think it's the 3rd chapter, I'm proposing a new chart, a new categorization of the maqasid, because the first one who came with this was al-Jawayni. His student was Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. And then in the same school of law, you have a Shatibi in the Maliki tradition. So Shatibi came and tried to come with what we call the 5 main principles of Maqasid al-Sharia al-Daruriyya. So that's fine. And al-Qarafi added another one about dignity. And I'm saying that this is not enough. The context is sending us a message that with these 6 principles, we cannot just change our understanding. So I'm coming with very specific, a new categorization saying we may add to applied ethics these objectives. So it's a human take. It's a human endeavor that is going to shape or frame or construct the whole vision of what is applied ethics and what are these principles today. So this is something that I said, and I'm trying to translate into my work.
Very, very brief, just because I'm from Europe, and just from your experience now in Europe, do you think that in the last years Islamophobia has increased instead of decreased? And really I see that in Europe it's like you have a nice vision, but I just see...
I'm sorry, has Islamophobia increased, but I want to make sure that the people behind you also get the chance to ask their question.
I think that we have, once again, I'm quite cautious with the way you use the concept of Islamophobia. For me, when you speak about targeting the Muslims because of the only fact that they are Muslims, this is unacceptable, and it has to do with racism against Muslims. This is what is, for me, Islamophobia. And I would say, yes, there is now a transnational reality in Europe, which is problematic, and this is used by populist parties, and we have to challenge these views, of course. Now, I think that the great majority of the societies are not knowing enough about Islam, and there is a great deal of fear. So we have to be very cautious not straight away to speak about their fear means Islamophobia. While I would say I respect the questions of the people, I resist its instrumentalization by political parties. But it's increasing, yes, and it's worrying.
Hi, Dr. Ramadan. I'm Saud Anam. I'm from George Washington University. I just had a question about your premise that you should bring together scholars of context and text. How do you make sure, those individuals that do come to the table, like the scholars of the text, they come with their personal agendas or political agendas, and then also the people who are scholars of context, and they may have their own personal agendas. The secular, religion, traditional. How do you, bring them to the table to have a constructive dialogue in terms of, moving forward and reforming, the interpretation of Islam?
It's not going to be easy, and it's difficult. You never know who could be involved. But I think that we have lots of scholars now on both, fields, so to speak, that we can, you have very important scholars that have an ethical concern, and then we can bring them in the discussion. And many Muslim scholars that are open to this kind of discussion, and they are telling you, we need that. We don't know about what is happening. We don't know. So I think it's a step-by-step process. We are not going to get them straight away, but at least we have to start.